Hey everyone, how are you? I'm so glad to be here with you on this Saturday. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday, by the way. Um, I'm Regine L. Sawyer. I am the coordinator and founder of the Women in Comics Collective International, WINK for short. And we have a comic book workshop series that has been running since last summer. And I'm so happy to introduce you to Y Sanders. Y will be doing a great art workshop for you. Y will be going over anatomy basics, and I'm going to bring Y on right now. Hey, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good today. Hope everyone else is too.
So introduce yourself a little bit. Tell the audience about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm Y Sanders. I'm a comic book artist. I what you call it? So I've been doing art for quite a while, probably as far back as I remember like existing. But my mom, she used to buy me like a ton of comics when I was younger, and I think what really hit me probably was the 90s like X-Men series that I know that they're currently kind of bringing back. So, I guess, with like nostalgic eyes, I'll be like looking. So I was already a big fan, and that's when kind of jump started my like journey into comics and doing comic art. So, but today we're going to be kind of going over anatomy. This one is going to be a little different just because we're going to be mostly kind of doing kind of like an analytical study of anatomy. So, like, we're going to start here with our model. She came from a DeviantArt stock like account, which is like great, which I do recommend. I have the account that I'll give towards the end. But yeah, so basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the way that I approach anatomy. So I don't know, might be maybe a bit different, but it's helped me a lot. So let's bring this down a little bit. And so basically what I do to start is I start looking for landmarks first. I know that usually most people will tell you to start with the head, but I don't. I'd start down here with the pelvis. And let's start here. So basically what I'm looking for is all the time, you can see people's pelvises. Even if their body is slightly bigger, the body fat on your body will kind of just situate itself around these landmarks. So no matter what size you are, they are always there. And so for this woman right here, they are here. The first one is about here. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So then we have another one right here. And we have another one about right there. But I don't know if you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with the pelvis, but let's go over it. This is a pelvis that this is what a usual pelvis looks like, especially this one down here. This is a woman's pelvis. We are not going to draw that today because it's a little too much. we want to try to keep it as simple as possible. So this is what I do. Very simple. We just we draw a box, right? I also want to do point out that when you're drawing your pelvis, that generally speaking for humans, our pelvises tilt naturally. Like as you can see here, it's not straight up. Like this one looks a little straight up and down, but in reality, they tip forward like that. And that's what we're going to be trying to aim for here. So like for this one, we're drawing the box this way. I know that some people do have like ways that they like to draw these. Could be like circles, ovals. I just think, well, I've learned that, and it's not the straightest box, but that's okay. I guess I've learned that I'm not too big of a fan of starting my constructions with circular objects, just because I feel like they're a little bit harder to kind of just work out for me. And so here we have our box. I guess you could say it's kind of like a really kind of like simplified version of this. So now what we're going to do, oh, one thing I do want to say is I am a really big fan of drawing through all of my shapes, even just ever so lately. I've learned that this really helps me a lot. When I'm like starting construction or just like learning how to do it. Okay. And so now we have this part here is the pubis symphysis. It's kind of just like a pouch. So what I do to kind of like, maybe I should start a new one so that way you guys can see it. I basically try to get the midway point of the box that I've drawn. And I bring this out. And I bring out this shape here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll try to make it a little bit darker so you can, maybe I'll make it brighter. So yeah, this is more a simplified version of this right here. As you can see, even this right here. I will say that there are measurements, but we're just going to try to keep it simple for today. So you don't really want to bother with that. I will show you how you can find it on your model though. All right, so this is our pelvis. We're going to go back to here. Oops. As you center here. Go back to right here. And then to here. All right. And then, unfortunately, she's kind of covering this area a bit. So we're going to have to just use our detective skills to kind of figure out where this is ending. So we'll just say like about here. And you'll find it on all three of them. So like, for example, here. Now, because of the tilt of the pelvis that the pelvis does, for the the back's going to be higher than the front. So it's going to be in a higher spot. And how you can even here, so this is like, let's say like the top of the pelvis right here. How you can find it here, because, you know, right here, there's just like roundness here. So you're like, how can you find that? Well, you see this right here? Generally speaking, when you have the pelvis, when you look, I guess it's, you know, maybe it's like a little odd to have to stare at somebody's like butt, but it. Right here, you'll see kind of like the butt does this. What it is doing is like it's kind of hanging off the edge of the pelvis, like the end of the pelvis. So when you see that on any person, that's when you know that's like basically like the bottom of the pelvis there. So because this is like mostly in shadow, we can tell like basically that's where it is. And here too. So here are the edge line marks we're looking for. Here, here, Okay, so basically we found it on all three of them. So it's really important to kind of like, well, for the way that I usually work out my construction, it's really important for me to know this because these lines, especially like right here, this is the foundation to which I build the drawing on. So like if this is wrong, then the whole drawing's going to be wrong. So it's really important to try to get that correctly first. So now we're going to put in the pupa synthesis. Like I said in the other one, we get the half. Not perfect, but it's fine. Maybe I'll just go through it. I'll go for a different color. That's like too bright. For this one, we don't really need to, but because obviously it's the back of the pelvis, so it doesn't need the pubic synthesis. That would be really weird. The person would, that would just really be unfortunate. But for someone who does have it there, like, I don't know. Okay, so there we go. Next, my next go-to would usually be the legs. And because both her feet are firmly on the ground, it should be a little bit easier. Let's see. We're gonna go hit up our legs now. This is just like a general look at the legs. This is like the pelvis, the great trochanter is over here, the femur, the patella, yada, 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 right? So rather than draw all this, I try to just simplify my shapes. And so like for this femur, what I do is I just and I draw the patella here. Sorry. This is about the shape I use. To draw all that, I don't bother with the fibula, it's fine. All right, so this is the shape I use, and we're gonna try to apply that to our analysis of this woman. Okay, so again, we are looking for landmarks. So just like we found these and found the shape, we're going to find them here. So here we have this. Really, we should just go here. I think we're going to go choose a spot wherever. We have to be a little opportunistic about where we get our landmarks. So the easiest one would be these out here, or, we did pick this one as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take here, we're going to go here and measure down to here, because this is a landmark, right? Over here to over here. That's another landmark. Let's change them. So I do from here, I drop it down. That's I was showing you here. Like we can still, like right here are the landmarks we were looking for. And I just turned it into a big rectangle because there's no point in doing all that. Right? Then the ankles, but that's not really necessary for today. And what about here? We have our landmarks here. So usually you just want to drop it down because it looks like it's about there. But it's just easier to because it's just, we can just drop it straight down. Especially since she's basically in the same pose. Drop this down from here. And remember to draw through all your shapes. Here. Okay. So for this one, because it's from the back, we're going to drop it. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Like you can see this over here. Right here, this is the back of the femur. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drop 2 lines down from over here down to those points. Right. Maybe we should move that down a little bit more to the middle. I mean, the beauty of being an artist is that you have the power to adjust, but okay. All right, next are the patellas. Also, just I know that I'm kind of just going at this without putting kind of measurements, because usually a human, like the average human, is about 7.5 heads. I know that for comics, it's about eight heads tall, and for fashion illustration, it's usually about 9 heads tall. But I know that's also like we're not exactly using the head, but the great thing about this is that since the art for the mesh for what we're using for the pelvis, like the size of the pelvis is our measurement. So this can be considered 1 head tall. Same for the rest of them. Okay. Sometimes I will get so far only to find out I'm on the wrong layer. It never fails. So this is our measurement for that. Generally speaking, the knee hits about 2.5 heads. So about like 2.5 of those. I'm not doing that now though, because of course, unfortunately, cameras do give a bit of distortion. But mostly I'm just trying to show you guys how to recognize like landmarks you can use to help you like figure out the like when you're drawing something or like the anatomy of like anything, like any human you're drawing. I know she's not here, but I was hoping like if everyone's like okay or they understand or have any questions so far, you can just shoot them off and she comes back.
Hey,
Hey.
there aren't any questions yet, but I mean, I've had a few questions, but I just wanted you to do your thing. I mean, my main question was, like when you're drawing, and you're like creating, because you didn't talk about the comic books you've worked on or anything of that nature.
I forgot.
Um,
I need to show everybody how to do that.
no, I know what you want to do. No, but I was curious when you're drawing characters for specifically like for comic books and such. For folks who are not sure or are unaware that are like outside the artist community, when you're doing that, do you go through this process every single time?
That's a good question. In the beginning, yes, I did. It took a while.
Okay.
It took me a good while because I was like, I had to figure this out. So I like tried to work it out. But as time goes on, you like, and as like you keep practicing, I've been able to kind of like, and I like know most of this by heart. So like, I can just like, oh, like when I'm drawing, I'm like, oh, I know like the shape of everything. And so I can just like put it together like automatically. So it goes a lot faster now. But when I started like doing like because I've been drawing for a while, but I was struggling so hard with anatomy, like no matter what. And I would read so many like how-to books, like even from like what Andrew Loomis, all of them. I've had classes. I've had like I just like on YouTube and everyone back in like DeviantArt days and stuff. They had all these tutorials, really confusing for me. So I found like I started going. I found this teacher. He was he was he was he's great. He's a great teacher, and he was able to simplify it. I know maybe it doesn't look that simple, but once I got used to it, I'm like, oh, okay, like I can figure this out better. Because a lot of times, like, for example, like I'm gonna get into the ribcage in a moment, but when people like do the ribcage, they always like draw like an oval, they draw like the bean bag circles. I mean, the ribcage, some people do use a rectangle, which is fine. I'm not going to exactly use that. But because my teacher's always like he's always said, and it's true, like we're not full of like there's no circles, but rather there are shapes that overlap.
Mm, that
So
makes sense.
that's what we're trying to like, because I know we because I mean you could easily just go like, oh, I just see this and just like go for it, but here we're trying to like get through the mumble like the mess of like all these like forms to just find like the face, like the skeleton, and how those turn around in space. So yeah, but after a while, once you keep doing it, you're like, oh no, I got it.
It
I
just
guess
comes
for the people,
naturally.
yeah. So for the people, it kind of looks like maybe to me like would look like oh, the person's just drawing like circles and stuff like that. But like no, I'm not.
And for real quick, anyone who's in the audience right now, feel free to just plop your questions into the chat box over here on YouTube. Just pop them in. If you're on the Wink website and you're a site member, feel free to put questions there as well. I am checking the Wink website too. So this is a very formal yet informal class. And for anyone who's watching this as a recording, if you want to email us some questions, we can definitely forward them to why and we also will be having more workshops in general that are similar to this, and why may be conducting those as well, so feel free to save those questions for then too. But I'm going to let you continue while I pop over and see if there are any other questions on the Wink Media channel.
Oh yeah, if anybody have any questions, like please let me know. I'm trying to maybe like just in case like I forgot to mention something. And you're like, how did you do this? Like I'll try to explain.
No problem. You're doing great. Thank you.
All right. Well, now we're at the ribcage, and I always felt like ribcages were pretty intimidating. But I mean, like I said, people have their whatever they use a lot, but we're going to do something a little different. So basically what I'm looking for is here. This is the 7th rib, as you can see, right? So what I try to do I try to do a simpler shape for the cage. So the 7th rib is actually, I should write that down so it's like a little bit clearer for you guys. 7th rib. Referred to as the 7th rib plane change. Mainly because the 7th rib is the widest portion of the rib cage. So that's what this is really supposed to represent. And then here represents the rest of the ribs, 8th, 9th, 10th. The 11th and 12th are in the back. They're really not important unless you're drawing somebody with their spine ripped out, which is cool too. Ta-da. And that's it. Right? So back to our model. We did the patellas. Well, we didn't do one here because obviously there are no patellas and there's somebody with patellas back there. I mean, yeah. All right, so the question is, how do I find the rib cage on my models here? Okay. Let's pick a different color. Let's pick a blue. And what I am looking for is, like, how I refer to it as the 7th rib plane change? Well, I'm looking for the part that comes out the most. So again, we're looking for landmarks, which would be right there. Here. We can see her ribs here. So I'm gonna say like, think around, because I know here, I'm not sure if she's like kind of sucking in her stomach a little bit. I don't think so. But I mean, we can see it kind of right there. Just because, I don't know if you can see it, there's like a bit of a shadow here. And when I see something like that, then I know that's our 7th rib. I'm gonna give it back to that in a moment. Okay, so the 7th rib, as you saw in the thing that I drew, it's kind of a straight line. So what we want to do is we want to measure here to this point. Like it should be straight. It shouldn't be like down here, or it shouldn't be like up there, because it looks like It doesn't look like, so far it's not like a sort of kind of like a unique ribcage. It looks, I mean, everyone's ribcage is unique, don't get me wrong, but it's not like unique in that way. So then what we want to do is kind of measure from this landmark, because at least we have the front, right? We're going to measure from here to over here. I guess we can get like the width there. So we'll do this, connect these two, and then do that. And here, we'll just say it's like around here. And I know it's not completely straight. Okay. So so how do we find her seventh rib plane change from here? Because it's obviously the back. I know like my teacher's always like, oh, well, the back is way easier than the front. And I've kind of always disagreed with that. But let's go back to the ribcage, right? We drew this, right? That's the front. We're going to move this out the way. And now we have the back of the ribcage. And luckily, you found this. This right here. This right here is the seventh rib. I'm going to pull up this one. Like you see how it's here in the front. Well, in the back, it's a lot higher. It's pretty high. So we have to account for that when we are drawing our rib cages. So we're gonna, actually, you know what? I'm gonna draw this because I forgot about that. So let's like kind of recreate like a simplified version of this. So here, we're gonna do this. I also meant to mention earlier that, actually, I'm gonna close this right here. This right here that I was drawing is the, this is the first rib. As you can see over here as well. Right, this is where the neck comes out. So I should have mentioned that earlier, I'm sorry. So we're gonna draw it, you have it here in the back as well. And so I don't know if you can see it, but the back here, it's kind of like, it's just kind of straight. And then what happens is, I guess it goes a little further in that way. And then back here, it goes in like this. And I'll show you when I try to draw, like, I'll try to draw an example of what I mean. So let's say these were tubes. The tubes will come out towards us, like this will come out towards us, right? And then here, let's maybe move this. This will be straight. And then this tube goes in. And I drew right on top of that. So that's how the back goes. So I have to take that into account when I'm simplifying that. So yeah, I know maybe like it looks a little different. I don't think it does. From here, this is like the front, and that's the back. I know, got like the words all on top of here. It's like really. So here, so I guess we would say like the seventh rib would kind of be in this area. Seventh rib here. Like I said, unless you're drawing, maybe someone like maybe something, I don't know, maybe someone's missing skin there and fat, and they were like a bunch of other stuff, you don't have to worry about that. We just need a general idea. All right, so back to here. Okay, all right, so the question is, so as we can see, I know she's wearing a top, but we can see, right? So right here, that's going up. This is straight, and this is going in. So here's her first rib. I'll draw those over here too. Also, I forgot also to mention that we're also looking for like the widest portion of the rib cage. So actually, so here it would be going. And so now when we're back here, her first rib, I guess technically would be like around here. Maybe we can just go here. We'll pick this spot, right? We're going to measure here. When I say measure, normally if you were drawing from life, you don't need a ruler. You could just use whatever tool you're drawing with, like pencil, pen, whatever. I would recommend that you could just like, maybe like, you could take whatever instrument you're using and like measure that. And then you can kind of get like the kind of like the distance between them. And because we did the first rib, we can connect, because as we drew it, remember we were like here. So we can kind of connect this, connect that. Take this area here and connect that and connect this. Now, usually now the question is like, okay, but like, where does it end? So you have it right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Because right here would be the widest area. So then after that would be like the 9th rib, the 10th, which would then connect down here. You can just get rid of all that. Actually, my bad. It is here. Right? And this here area is where her first rib is. We can then connect that. And here's her rib here. All right, sorry guys, I'm keeping it a little simple today. All right, I mean, I don't know if anybody has any questions or understood that. I know there's actually another way that I go about also drawing the ribcage, and I almost just did it. I'm trying to keep it simple because then it gets a little too much. Okay, so next now, will be the head. All right, so this is the skull. Normally, I guess everybody would have started with this first. And, just make it a circle or an oval or either or. I'm going to do something a little different. Hey.
Hi, just popping in.
Hey.
With a question really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you start with the bottom half as opposed to starting with the head?
That's a good question too.
Like, why is that your artistic choice?
Okay, so usually the pelvis is usually considered the center of gravity. And so what I try to do is also like the closest to the ground versus the ribcage and up. So whatever's closest to the ground, it's kind of like closest to reality. So then I'm like, for example, like she's standing on both legs, but what if she had like one leg in the air? So by then figuring out like how her pelvis is situated, then I can work out like, okay, well, her legs are here. And I can make sure that the ankle is right and like everything else is correct. Because then it's like, because these are further away from the ground, like her, like since these are, let's see. Since these are further up, like these are like, there's more, like these are like, I guess, a bigger variable. So I could do whatever I need to do with them. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but if I don't draw this correctly, it's gonna look weird and it's gonna look off.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna quickly go through the skull. All right, so with the skull, what I try to do is I maybe just have that on. This right here, your brow. I try to measure that. We should get something a little bit darker. I'm gonna pull up another one. This one right here. You see how his brow is kind of going from here? And I try to find another landmark that basically can't move. So I'm going to go for here. This, if you check your ear right here, I think the name escapes me at the moment, but it's just like right there.
Just know I'm following along with you now. and copying you and trying to figure it out for myself.
So I try to go, maybe I just take off my glasses. So what I try to do, okay, is a little confusing because I know I'm going like the opposite way. So, okay, wait, right here? Yeah.
Temple.
I measured from here, from the temple up to here. So then if I was doing it with like an actual model, or even if I had the reference in the drawing, I would measure with my tool from here to here. And I would be like, oh, that's the distance, right? And then what I would do to get the front, I would then put my tool around like the brow area here. So like, but here though, it's just straight. And here, I know it's not straight here, but it's just straight.
And just so everyone knows, I'm popping in and out because I know why I wanted a little company. So I wanted her to know I'm still here and I can still ask questions and chat. But go ahead.
If anybody else has any questions, definitely. But so what we try to do is just we measure. I mean, this is obviously a male's skull. So we're not going to use it for our female, but generally speaking, this is how I would get the direction of that. And then bring this down. And also your chin doesn't just like do this. Some people more than others, it'll jut out. And then here, you can just drop this down. This is the supraorbital. Let's see, I have it. The supraorbital notch is here. Right? Usually what you would do is you would measure from here down to the chin. Like so. So for like, because now I can show you because, you know, I'm not, but your supraorbital notch should be like here. And then if you were measuring, you would take this and put it to the chin, like right there.
So it's the top of your brow.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a part here that kind of like goes up before it goes down.
Okay.
That's what you would measure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't really see. I got my glasses on.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Look at how you're
You're good. You're fine.
So then I would do that. And the purpose of this really is because after your like this area here, like I guess your cranium, it's your face. And this is where the uniqueness comes in. So for example, like my zygote right here, like right here, first, this is where it starts to change for people. So for some people, it might be higher, it might be lower, it might not come out as much. So I do all this to kind of like make sure that not only to just kind of like build the form, but to make sure that I'm capturing the person's essence.
And you're referring to the cheekbones?
Yeah, right here. Like
what was I heard you say the bone. I heard you say the specific name of the bone.
Like area here, right?
Right here. Okay.
Like it, well, I'm not gonna get into it today.
Next workshop.
So then, like you see how this comes down. Normally I would take my tool and measure here. And measure there. And then you would here get I mean, there's a lot of measuring. I mean, we don't have to do that today. But this is what I use. And here's the highest point. As you can see. So it would just basically kind of look like that. And here, yeah, like here, there's this guy's zygote muscle. It would kind of look like that. Like I said, we're not going to get into that because that in itself is its own lesson. As I continue doing it, let's go. All right, so we're back here. And now we're going to go through her head. All right, so here's her neck. Let's do something else because that's a little. Her neck is here.
She looks decapitated.
I know. This is her neck. And now what we're going to do is, I think she's like lifting it up pretty high. Yeah, she's doing like, she's lifting it up. That's why it looks like, I was like, that's a really long neck. She's lifting it up. So there we go. Yeah, she's lifting it up. So we're going to pick a spot to measure from. And if I take this off, there's this area here. What is this? This area right here. Remember, I've been talking about looking for landmarks. We're looking basically for spots that are not going to move that we can rely on. And so what we would do is we would then measure from there to here, from the area I was talking about. And with your tool, you would then go to here, another area where we were like touching our faces a little bit earlier. And then move it to here, measure all that. So then you can kind of go here and bring this back like that. And then we can build her head. So this would be the frontal bone. This actually is bigger on women, on females than on males. And also with women, with females, this area here goes back. So it's the frontal bone, and then it recedes back. So I'm push this back, bring this up. And here is the top of her head. We can take this area because we measured it out. It's not moving. And we can hit that point and get to the middle here. Bring this over. Drop this down. And here's her chin. Then we can bring this down like so. And that's what it looks like without her photo there. Oh, here we go. Okay. We'll just use a different color, but this right here is also about one head. If we were like, maybe if I was just drawing, I wasn't like trying to demonstrate here, I would make sure that this definitely matched with that. to make sure that they're simply one head, but to be quite honest. And then this right here should be about 2 to 3 heads tall. I know we're at 5:12, but I don't know if anybody had any questions or we continue going.
So far there aren't any other questions.
Okay.
So far, I think you're just so engrossing. Really, because I'm definitely engrossed. I think you're just so engrossing. But if I have any questions, I'll definitely be asking them. So we do have a few minutes left. So whatever your next steps are, feel free to show them.
Okay. So I'll do that. I guess I know I could just finish the middle one off since like we have a few minutes left. Okay. I'm gonna go with a bright orange here because I know like her head's kind of in the way, her neck's in the way. I'm gonna take her neck out for a sec. And what I'm gonna do here is maybe make this brighter. And we're gonna draw in her clavicle. And right here is also part of her clavicle as well. And we're just gonna connect that. And I know I was mentioning earlier about like, so this would be above her first rib. And then down here would be the, I think this is all now, just like, yeah, the clavicular notch. Okay, that'd be fantastic. And then we have here her humerus. And kind of like this going up here. Also, I know I didn't yet mention the breast, but in reality, like I would maybe, for example, find a spot, like, because this right here is the bottom of her breast right here. So what I would do is maybe I would try to find a spot, like maybe this one over here. We'll use this area and measure so we can get exactly where it is. I know you're like, what? It's like right there. But trust me, when you are like drawing, especially like from life, it like, at least to me, it was just like, well, I think it goes there, but for some reason it's not working out.
Are you speaking of the actual like breastbone?
No, not the actual breastbone, but just like the fat, like the breast itself.
Okay, the meat. Okay.
Yeah. So I would do this. Also, like I know there is like the pectoralis major, would usually be about like here. Also, don't forget to make sure that things are a bit straight. And we're looking, and if you can see like right there, I don't know if you can see where my like cursor is, but that would be
by the underarm.
Yeah. The underarm. it should be like there. And then your breasts kind of go in like that. The breast would then do that. And then here we have, because I know that I put her, like I said, her pelvis was here. And then we have her sternal obliques. And also this is wrapping around her pelvis. Also, like around here, I would usually take care to make sure I got the half mark for here. And I would wrap her gluteus medius over here. And then drop down her butt, or gluteus maximus, which I had mentioned earlier about how you can find the landmark for it, because it'll just be hanging off of the pelvis. Again, also the thighs don't exactly go straight down. So they usually have a point where they kind of jut out. You can then, to find it, you can take, like, we can take this part of the pelvis because it's pretty reliable, or, you know, whatever. And we can just, we would usually measure here. And then because both of her legs are in one spot, it's safe to say that it should be in the same spot. If she had her legs somewhere else, it would be different. And then we can drop this line here and bring it back right here, down back to her knees. Bring this down here. This goes in like this. And then you guys can see how it's like coming out. Starting to look like that. I mean, starting to look like we're starting to put somewhat a little bit more human. Rather than just like a collection of like random boxes, but and also so I guess like the best way to kind of explain this area here would be, imagine if you had a shelf, right? Like, remember I was like talking about the pubesynthesis? And then what we do is like, because I mean, there's a lot of, I guess, water weight here. So think of it kind of like a bag of water, like sitting right on top of that. Okay. I was like trying to draw a bag, and I'm like, wait. We could just pull it out from here. And then I think I want like a different color for that. Also look for twin. Like usually, like you see how this is kind of, I know I'm throwing out a little bit, but see right here, like this comes out more. There's a twin on this side. This also comes out. This gives balance because the body is full of balance. So if it's on one side, it's definitely going to be on the other. See, like how this is here, and then that's there. Right, and so for feet, just try to keep it pretty simple. We take her ankles that we drew earlier, bring them down to here. And that's her toe. And the highest peak would be actually her second toe, which would be here. And then that's her heel. As for the arm, I know it's drawing it here, but I like to keep it one shape. This is her hands. Yeah, we're just gonna keep it as a rectangle. And so yeah, those are some of the things that I do too when I'm analyzing a figure or I'm working on my own. And sometimes it's like a little hard to maybe find reference. I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to use the power of shapes to figure it out. Like she was saying, there's actually like these are more the simplified versions that I've used. They're actually like I almost kind of did it earlier when I was doing the ribcage. They're actually like a little bit more like I could cut them down a little bit more to resemble like what they're supposed to represent a little bit more. But I think that's like for another day. That's gonna.
We definitely have to have you back. That's for sure. We definitely have to have you back. This is very comprehensive.
We're gonna put her neck back. But I know, like, because I know when I first started learning it this way, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know, like, what is going on. But as time went on, I'm like, oh, okay, it's like not too bad. And I feel like it's a little bit more accurate for me. I don't know, like, anyone has, like, my issue, just find some of the stuff out there just really confusing. And I think, like, mostly just being able to find, like, to figure out where landmarks are and knowing that I can always rely on them and then using that to kind of like measure out like where other things are. It made it so much easier for me and like forever grateful to this.
That's what's interesting because you said that landmarks are essentially places that don't move or they don't change. So once you identify those, you can then take it from there.
Right. And you can use that to help you figure out the things that do change and that are like not permanent. So then you can, I mean, once you learn how to do this, you can then also use this to kind of manipulate your figures more. And you're like, oh, well, it's here. Well, I can just like move it somewhere else. So,
Well, okay. So thank you so much for coming on
thank
and
you
doing
for
this
having
amazing
me.
workshop. We definitely have to have you back as like an addendum to this. Or of course, if you want to bring something else to our audience, that'll be great. But thank you so much. So like a round of applause. I don't know what y'all do in your house, but you definitely need to give a round of applause to Y Sanders. Um, and within the coming months, we're going to have more workshops coming, which again, we would love to have Y back. We're also going to be doing in-person events this year. Lord willing, we'll see what COVID is doing. We'll see what COVID is doing first. See what COVID's plans are before we make our plans completely and totally concrete. But if you go to our event page, you'll see that we have some tentative plans happening. We do have some in-person conferences and comic book festivals happening. Again, we'll see. But we have a ton of virtual events happening. So we'll have a workshop next month, as well as in the coming months, you'll get more art workshops, more writing workshops, and perhaps some editorial workshops as well. I know that's a conversation folks are having in terms of what does it take to be a comic book editor? What are are those folks actually doing?
Right.
Um, I mean, they're probably laughing at it for a different reason than other folks are. Like, what are the editors actually doing? But no. They're doing some very important work, necessary work. It is it is a it is a journey when you're working with other people and bringing them together, um, artists and writers alike, and trying to make sure that everything jives, everything is smooth when it comes to storytelling and such. So editors are highly, highly, highly important to the process. So again, thanks to White Sanders. And yes, folks, check out our event page. Also, check out the other stuff that's on our website. We have our Wink magazine issues 1, 2, and 3 that are currently up and available. And next month, March, the spring edition will be out. We're really excited about that. That will be released on, I believe, March 23rd or 22nd, whichever day is the spring equinox is when that book will be released. So we're looking forward to that and bringing that to you. So take care, y'all. And again, much love to Y Sanders. Take care and enjoy your day. Bye.
Bye.